Hey everybody, we're here live from the barn and answering questions that are sent in by you guys. Today what we're answering, what we're talking about is actually not something that you guys have asked. It's something that we thought we better tell you so that we don't end up in a situation where right before show season we have all of these things that should have been dealt with earlier. So today what we're talking about are 4 things that you need to check in with now and not wait until spring. If you're watching this as a replay, this recording is being done middle of January, and in Ontario we typically take a little bit of a break from showing. A lot of people kick their horses out for the winter and start back up in maybe March, April, May. Northern Ontario might even be later. But we just wanted to give you 4 things to check in with now so that whenever you do get started, whenever you do have good riding weather, you can go full steam ahead and you're not wishing that you had been told or reminded of these things a little bit earlier. Do you want to go on a rant about shoeing? Because the very first one that we're going to talk about is about hoof care.
Well, for me, the thing I see is a lot of people get done that show season and, you know, they rip the shoes off because they don't want to pay their fare. Everybody makes this excuse about it's better for them to have some time off. If you got a good horseshoer, taking them out of shoes is not good for them. We can manipulate the foot to a better foot with shoes on. But if you do take them off, keep them trimmed, keep them looked at, keep the frogs trimmed up, you know, keep them really healthy. You know, some of it can be done yourself. You know, a little rasp on the toe never hurt any horse, and a little tidying up and keeping it that way doesn't hurt. But the biggest thing is keep them healthy, keep an eye on them. You know, it's hard for a horse, especially this time of year. Like, we've been muddy all the last month and a half. And then they're calling for us to get, you know, a pretty good freeze for the next good week or so. And that's hard on horses' feet. If you're going to pull shoes off, you needed to have done it a long time ago. But it's much better to just leave them on. Everybody does the thing about, oh, it's better to let them be natural. If your horseshoer is a good horseshoer, it's not. Most people do it because they're being cheap and they're just looking for an excuse.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on the horse and what the conditions are that they're going out in and all those things. But
if you're going to take sliding plates off, put a regular shoe on.
Don't take the shoes off, kick them out, and then let their feet grow out and get overgrown and, you know, and have them on the frozen ground and then bring them back and think that you can just throw shoes on and go, you know, ride the hair off of them, because that doesn't work. And that's what a lot of people do.
Not everybody. I mean, there's people that stay in the
people that are watching this are probably not doing that. The people that are watching this just need a reminder of, like, hey, when your first show is, let's look backwards and make sure that you're not just waiting until a week or 2 before the horse show or right before you start riding them again to put shoes back on them. You know, we want to make sure that the feet are in good condition and that they have a little bit of a time to adjust from whatever the conditions are to whatever you're going to be putting them in.
I think if a horse is laid off, they should at least have at least 3 months. You know, and this is broke. You know, Flicka that's broken just needs fitted up. But a good 3 months of riding before they go show is a good time frame. Yeah. You know, it's better if they've stayed riding all winter, but if they have a good 3 months, you know, you got enough time to take a little belly off of them, get their muscles in shape. And that's such a big one I see people do, you know, especially in the reiners and the cow horses, is, you know, these things got to move a little bit. And, you know, they just lay them off just a little too much and then get to the first show and laugh about, oh, my horse is porky. Well,
yeah, my horse is fat, my horse is hairy.
I wouldn't laugh near as much if I had to go jog 2 kilometers right now. You know, I should be on the same program as the horses and be in a little better shape, but You can't do that to a horse. It's just not fair for their feet, not fair for their muscles, not fair for a lot of things.
Yeah.
What's number 2?
Number 2 is grooming. So the first thing that you don't want to wait on was just hoof care, just checking in to make sure what needs to be done, looking backwards from when you plan to start riding them more heavily or showing them, and making sure that their feet are just taken care of nicely and they're not getting overgrown, that what they have is appropriate for the conditions that they're in. Number 2 is grooming. So we wrote that as the title, but really what we mean is cut their tails now, because it'll make a big difference later. When you,
Yeah, a lot of people get done showing, take the braid out.
yeah, and a lot of
flick
people
out
think,
the
oh,
side
I'll
of
just
them.
let it grow all winter and then I'll cut it in the spring. But what happens is, if you let it grow all winter, same as human hair, it's going to get split ends, and the ends are going to split up the hair, and you're going to end up with a thinner tail and a poorer looking tail than had you cut it now. Plus, with a horse, different than a human, or different than most humans, I guess, is they're getting mud balls and frozen balls at the end of their hair if you're leaving their tail long. So you want to go ahead and cut the tail. It should have already been cut by now. If you have not done it, cut it now. And
Cut it like a couple inches above their ankle.
Yeah.
And then you'll end up with a big full tail, and it'll grow out as the spring comes on, but keep it up above that ankle. I think that's a huge one.
Or if they're in deep mud, you might have to cut it even more than that. Hopefully they're
Well,
not
I mean,
in that deep
minimal.
of mud, but this year it's been pretty bad.
Yeah, minimal above their ankle.
Yeah.
You know, a couple inches.
Just go chop that thing off. And then the other thing is, if you're going to be bringing them back, if you're somebody who kicked your horse out for, let's say, the month of December, and now you're bringing them back and you're going to want to be riding them, hopefully you already had a blanket on, but you need to make sure that you've either got an appropriate blanket on for the weather, because if your horse is outside in freezing temperatures and they've grown a coat for that, and then you're bringing them in and you're riding them, you either need to make sure that you limit that coat growth, or that you take a lot of time to make sure that they are properly cooled out all the way through. Get your cooler out if you haven't done that already.
One thing I think I'm a big one on blankets that I see a lot too is people will put a slinky on thinking that warms a horse up.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Slinkies keep the hair matted down, which is great for our show horses. It makes them look pretty. We like them for the right reason, but it makes a horse freeze. It makes them cold. The hair doesn't have the ability to insulate. Slinkies do not keep them warm. You know, I think that's a big one. And of course, this time of year, waterproof everything. Oh my God.
Yeah, nice rant about slinkies. I like that.
That wasn't even a rant.
Oh, well, I liked it. Nice
You want me
point.
to go on a big rant?
Good point. Excellent point.
Yeah. Intelligent observation.
Number 3 is about poop. Do you want to cover this one?
I think this is a great time. Do a fecal sample. See where that horse is at. If he needs worming. You know, instead of waiting until you start riding them, you know, do it now. Them worms are going to sit. And if you can kill worms now and they're outside and it's freezing, that horse has a lot more time to be healthy.
They will utilize their food a lot better, stay in better condition. It will save you money in the long run. It will save you time. Your horse will perform better.
And fecal samples are so cheap.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing I think everybody forgets is then if you need to worm them, you know what you're worming them. You know what you need to do to them.
What you need to consider for the rest of the horses in the barn if you're not doing a fecal sample for everything.
Yeah, I think that's a big one this time of year is do fecal samples.
Fecal sample. Get your baggies out. Number 3 is about nutrition and weight management.
You can go on that one because I have not handled my weight management good this winter
You're
at all.
really on about that a lot recently. Okay.
I'm getting older.
Okay. When I was at the dentist the other day, the lady was like, I'm not telling you that you're old. I'm just saying that your needs might be changing. Okay, thanks a lot. Cool.
I think the biggest thing in the winter, just like people, is I think it's the same with the horses. You know, people will feed thinking they're being nice to their horse because it's wintertime, you know, and not being intelligent about their choices and what they are feeding. You know, one that I always hear is like, that drives me crazy is bran mashes. you know, to keep their horse warm. I think that's the most ridiculous false thing that horse people have been told for years. You know, it's been proven 100 times not to be true, but it makes the owners feel good.
Okay, I was even gonna like almost back it up a step from that. I feel like the biggest problem in the wintertime, this time of year, with weight management is that we can't rely on just what we're seeing. We can't rely on that visual where, you know, a big part of the year we can physically, you know, see how they're doing. Right now, if they have blankets on and we're not taking the blankets off and looking at them in different lights and looking at them when they're moving, or if they have a big coat, or both, if they have a blanket and they have a lot of hair, it's harder for most people, and most people don't even realize this, it's harder for most people to be able to tell whether their horse is in good condition, because big, thick hair that stands up, like to create a natural insulator, it actually stands up, it puffs up away from the skin to keep the horse warm. You can't tell whether your horse is just fat or if they're just furry, or if they've lost weight because the hair is so puffy that you can't see the ribs. So I think take your horse's blanket off if they're blanketed, bring them in, give them a good grooming, and actually put your hands on them and see if you can feel what's going on with their ribs. Look for fat pockets. And if your horse is fat, start backing them down on their feed now, because being fat and coming back to work is going to be so hard on their joints and not fair. And if they're underweight and coming back to work, you're fighting a losing battle trying to help them put weight on and, you know, give them a workout and get them in shape. So really check that right now. And if any adjustments need to be made, then start to adjust them now, because then you'll have time to get your horse into good shape nutritionally and weight management wise before you really start going to town or hauling out to shows or adding pressure where their weight could fluctuate more.
I think the thing I noticed this time of year is like the base of their necks. You see a lot of horses where their base, you know, you see them get a little skinny because the base of their neck, they aren't used to that exercise and protein in their body, so they lose that top end bloom, and that's where I notice it when I look at horses.
What I notice is people say, oh, he's got a pot belly, he's fat, but they're not actually fat. They're just not fit at all, and they haven't, like you said, they haven't got a good top line. They haven't, you know, been
That's a good
working out.
indication that they're a little wormy.
A pot belly can be, yeah, it can be that they're wormy, or it can be that they're maybe not getting enough protein or, you know, fats and stuff. They're just getting a lot of forage, but
I think a lot of people think too that because their horse is outside,
you can't just
he's
look
getting
at
exercise.
Yeah.
You know, like the horse is lacking exercise. They're standing on snow and ice. They're not running. They're not playing all the time. They're not sweating like they were in the summer. You know, and definitely in southwestern Ontario, I mean, there's a lot of studies that say like pastures and whatnot really go down. Oh shoot, what is it?
Go down in nutritional content.
Yeah, there's like a couple of
Selenium.
specific
We're really low in selenium.
selenium
in Ontario,
and
vitamin E.
there's a couple of them.
I know those are the two things that we're always trying to supplement.
Magnesium. That was the other one. You know, that they really dropped down in magnesium this time of year. So you have selenium, magnesium, vitamin E. You know, you got to watch where you're getting that from. You have to really, you know, I think you can drop down grain a little bit, but you got to increase quality hay. I think you need to watch what types of grains you drop down on. You know, like it's a hard deal, but you really got to pay attention to it this time if you want a healthy horse.
And then the other challenge right now is that we had such a challenging year for getting good hay.
Oh, man.
The quality of the hay, at least in our area, the quality of the hay is really poor or really expensive. And good quality forage is just so important. So let's let that fall into that category as well of nutrition is get your hay tested if you have not already. And if you're looking for a good option for forage, we like the Max Equine cubes, the forage cubes. They're similar to what you're used to with a hay cube, but they are a longer chop length. So the fibers are actually longer and the horse gets a longer chew time, which is ideal at this time of year. We want the longer chew time because we want the increased saliva. And once we have that increased saliva, we're buffering against colics, we're buffering against ulcers, all kinds of things. And the consistency in the cubes is really good. So if you have a poorer hay, you can supplement with these cubes and have some consistency there for your horse where you know what they're getting.
And I think that's the biggest
Every
thing
bag's
is,
tested, so.
you know, making sure that they are eating properly. Like, you know, definitely feed them a little more hay because if they're outside in the cold or if your barn's cold, feed them a little more hay because that's what keeps them warm. Grain doesn't keep them warm. You know, feed them more hay, and that's what's going to help them stay warm in Canada. We in Southwest Ontario are struggling right now. Hay prices are really high, and it's hard to find really good hay right now. And I was talking to a guy, I guess, I forget if he said British Columbia or something. They had the opposite of us, so they had no hay in the opposite way. So, you know, it's a struggle everywhere.
They had no hay in the opposite way. What do you mean?
Like ours was always so, they couldn't get like a good dry.
Oh, it was so wet?
Yeah, like it was just always staying wet.
Yeah.
And then they had the opposite weather out west, and they were in the same struggle of just not enough hay for what they need. You know, I mean, we supplement hay cubes. You know, we have as I'm sure you know, a ginormous hay bill. And we supplement the hay cubes so that when we do get into, you know, worrying about is quality hay going to last, I can supplement hay cubes, and then I don't have to change them when I go to horse shows. There's a lot of benefits to it in the multiple ways we can produce hay, and we are lucky in Southwestern Ontario in that way. And then we know what those horses are getting into them, because boy, looking at a bale of hay, you cannot tell how those things will test. You have to send them in and get them tested if you're really particular about what you want in your hay. Just because it's green and looks fancy doesn't mean it is fancy for what they need. You know, so there's a lot of testing involved. I mean, you're not going to do it for 10 small square bales, but, you know, it definitely is something to consider, that you need a quality hay and to keep up on them. I think the biggest thing is just don't wait till March to tell me you want your horse to get in shape, get his feet done, and let's worm him, and let's put, you know.
Okay, so in our last Facebook Live, we talked about what you should be working on your horse through the winter. In this one, we talked about 4 things not to wait on. And the next one, we're going to talk about things to check on with your tack so that you're ready for show season, and just things that you need to check on your tack every year. So we hope we'll see you next week for that. If there's something that you think we missed in what to do right now to be ready for show season, you're more than welcome to comment that. If you have questions, leave us comments. We will come back and make sure that those get answered, whether you're watching us on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or wherever you find us. And thanks for being here.
Are we going to talk about what we're going to do next weekend?
I just said what we're going to do next week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I just said we're going to talk about tack.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. I pay attention to you a lot, dear.
I know. Okay. Thanks a lot for being here, you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Have a good day.